For the first time in Abdul Rahman's life, he was in a place where slavery was outlawed. Newspapers detailed Abdul Rahman's Prince to Pauper story, and local events were organized around his visits. A bumpy stagecoach ride took them through Pennsylvania, Maryland, and later Washington, D.C. His hopes buoyed by the attention, Prince carried his subscription book everywhere, soliciting donations to free his family back in Mississippi. Secretary of State Henry Clay arranged for Prince to meet with President John Quincy Adams.
May 15th, 1828. Abdul Rahman is a Moor who has been 40 years a slave in this country. The Emperor of Morocco expressed a wish that this man might be emancipated and sent home. I should like to oblige the Emperor.
Children, the President received me very kindly, and I expect from his kind expressions to me that he will pay every attention to my business.
Fast becoming the most popular African in America, Abdul Rahman played to the press, never denying some of the more colorful descriptions of himself or his life, at least not in print.
The African prince, Abdul Rahman, at the insistence of several of the clergy, has spent a few days in this city to receive contributions.
He has a striking face and a clear, intelligent eye.
Irish prince. He expresses the deepest sympathy for his children who are still in slavery.
Their emancipation would be paramount to every other consideration. Episcopal Watchman, July 4.
His visit is to avail himself to the benevolence of this community. The appeal, we are confident, will not be in vain.
Abdul Rahman had an agenda. It's informed by a careful reading of the circumstances in which he finds himself. Exceptionality in the United States is, to his advantage.
On his return visit to the White House, Abdul Rahman appealed to President Adams to contribute to the fund to free his children. Meetings with other politicians in the young capital had netted the prince several $100s. When Abdul Rahman made it clear that his true homeland was not in Morocco, President Adams was less charitable.
May 22nd, 1828. The distraction of business and of visitors gave me a headache. Abdul Rahman, the emancipated Moor, brought me a subscription book to raise a fund for purchasing the freedom of his 5 sons and his 8 grandchildren, to which I declined subscribing. John Quincy Adams, President.
Adams' lack of interest in helping to fund his children's freedom dealt a harsh blow to Abdul Rahman. But there was one last group he could turn to. The American Colonization Society was a powerful organization aimed at exporting Christianity and settling America's free blacks in Africa. Thomas Gallaudet headed up the society's Connecticut office. Abdul Rahman hoped Gallaudet would enlist its wealthy members to buy his family's freedom. Believing Abdul Rahman to be a Christian, Gallaudet saw in him an opportunity to use the prince's notoriety to spread Christianity to Africa. Gallaudet went as far as to give Abdul Rahman a Bible written in Arabic and asked him to write the Lord's Prayer. Many years later, it was discovered that what Abdul Rahman had written was actually the Fatiha, the opening chapter of the Quran.
This was a man who has a lot of faith, and he's committed to his principles, but he knows how to get what he wants from the system.
He has to tell a story that makes sense to the people he's talking to. So we don't know how much of what he said was just for them and how much was what he really thought in his own heart.
Abdul Rahman was unable to stop the spin of events in Mississippi. When reports of his northern travels reached Natchez, he was cast as an instigator, stirring up racial troubles with free blacks and abolitionists at the government's expense.
I consider the contract entered into by the government through the agency of Henry Clay, Secretary of State, entirely violated. Prince has written several letters to my slaves stating he would procure their freedom. And if he returns here, or while he remains in the United States, I consider the said Prince my slave. Thomas Foster.
Ungrateful blackguard.
Slave owners didn't like to set slaves free. It undermined the whole system, it undermined the whole economy, it undermined their moral justification of slavery.
Andrew Jackson, a slaveholder who once lived near Natchez, stepped up his plans to defeat John Quincy Adams in the 1828 presidential election. Abdul Rahman became a flashpoint for scandal and slander during the campaign.